Hi, fourth grade, welcome back. So today we're gonna start our final project. This one is a lot of fun. We're gonna be studying the contemporary artist Damien Hirst. Whenever someone says the word contemporary, all that it means is that the artist is still alive. So if the artist has passed away or is no longer living, it means that they are no longer contemporary. Damien Hirst is a very strange kind of artist. He's one of the only artists that uses, well, dead animals to create their artwork. Take a close look at this piece of art by Damien Hirst. What I want you to think about is, what do you think this is made out of? When you're ready, raise your hand and I'm going to call on someone who might want to guess what this artwork is made out of. I hope that someone said butterflies. So Damien Hirst went around and he found dead butterflies on the floor of the forest or wherever he was looking, and then decided to glue them all together in this very radial, circular shape. Let's have a turn and talk. What do you think? Do you think it's okay for an artist to use dead organisms to create art? For this project, we're going to study one piece of art by Damien Hirst. This is the diamond skull. So he covered a human skull, a real one, with real diamonds. All right, so now I want to hear from you. Could anyone raise their hand and give us a guess at why Damien Hirst might have created this artwork? What do you think inspired him? Okay, so for this project, we're going to be studying anatomy. Anatomy means the parts of the body. We're going to specifically talk about the skull. So there are some parts of the skull that you're going to need to know. The first one is going to be the mandible. So the mandible is at the very bottom. That's what holds your bottom teeth. Then we're also going to study the Zygomatic Arch. That's what makes your cheekbones stand out. And then at the very bottom of the nose, we'll talk about later, is going to be the nasal spine. And yes, your teeth are part of your skull. Those are considered bones. We're going to talk about the temporal bont, or the temples, and then also the supraorbital process, but we're just going to call it the orbital bone. That's the circular part of your eye. Some things I wanted you to notice is that obviously your eyeballs, they go into those little holes in your skull, and then hopefully you notice that there really isn't a nose. So your nose is made up of cartilage, and I know it feels like there might be a bone there, but it's actually just a hard piece of cartilage. Okay guys, so we're actually going to feel these bones on our face. So hopefully when you walked in, you took a little squirt of the hand sanitizer. Always sanitize. First thing I want you to feel for, and yes, you are going to touch your face, is I want you to feel for the mandible. The mandible is at the bottom of your teeth. I don't want you to actually open your mouth and put your hands in there, but you can feel a little bump where your teeth end and your jaw begins. I just want you to feel for that. That's your mandible. So you'll feel like a little bump, and then it gets a little bit, feels like there's kind of like a little hill on the sides where your teeth end. So even though I'm not touching my gums, I can feel that little bump where it changes. The next thing that we're gonna feel for is the Zygomatic Arch. So that is your cheekbones, the very top of your cheekbones where it's really high. I want you to actually feel underneath it. So I want you to feel that you can feel this kind of outward part, and then underneath it, you can almost kind of put your finger underneath it, onto your cheek. So that's your Zygomatic Arch. They call it an arch because it goes up, and then there's nothing below it. So you can really kind of stick your finger and feel the bottom part of it. Now, like we talked about, inside our skull, we have a little hollow space. That's because our noses are made of cartilage. So even though it feels really hard, that's actually not bone, it's cartilage. So to help you think about it, anything that wiggles, so wiggle your nose like this is cartilage. So anything that wiggles is cartilage. Now, at the very bottom, you can feel a bone. So between your nostrils, push right here, you should feel a really hard spot. This is called your nasal spine. So go ahead and try that. Next part I want you to note is the temples. So the temples are right here on the sides. What I want you to do is just kind of roll your fingers in a circle. You'll feel kind of this little recessed area. A lot of people will roll their fingers like this when they're stressed, because humans, we hold some of our stress right here in our temples when we're stressed out. So just by rolling the skin actually can help relax you and calm you down if you're ever stressed out. The orbital bone. So the orbital bone starts about right here, and it goes over the zygomatic arch, and it actually goes inside your eyebrow. So you'll feel it if you press inside your eyebrow. So go ahead and take your fingers, and I want you to follow that circle so you'll know exactly where your orbital bones are. So in a moment, I will have y'all go to the middle table and get a little box of Play-Doh. So the reason that we're gonna use Play-Doh today is we're gonna practice because we are gonna be using a little bit of clay next time to create a clay skull. So we're gonna practice today. I'm gonna show you how I made it, and then of course you can do it your way as well. So what your goal is to look at the picture on the tables, and you wanna create a realistic skull. So for instance, I'm gonna take this circle, and I notice that it really isn't a circle when you look at it from the front. It's more of an oval. So I'm gonna kind of move it until it turns into an oval. I'll also have these popsicle sticks available for you. Now I'm going to do the eyes. So I'm basically just gonna kind of move the clay out. I'm not gonna lose it because another class needs to use this. But now I have two little holes, and I'm gonna go ahead and smooth it out. Now the eye sockets don't go through the whole skull. There is bone behind the eyes, so I'm just gonna leave it the way it is. Now I'm gonna do the nose. Now remember, we noticed that the nose kind of just isn't there, so I'm going to use this, but you don't have to use the popsicle stick if you really don't want to, and pop out a nose because we really kind of don't have one. Now I'm looking at the skull from the side, and noticing that mine really doesn't look like a skull from the side. So I'm gonna sculpt it in a way that looks a little bit more like the paper tells me to do it. So I'm noticing that that nose part is really kind of in there. It really doesn't look like they have a nose at all. So I'm gonna try to match that on mine. So far so good. And then I noticed that the chin pops out a little bit. So I will do that on mine as well. I have not done the teeth quite yet. And then that jaw is really flat. So I think I'm just gonna move it until it's super flat on the bottom. A skull is not a perfect circle. So I did notice that it goes flat, goes up, and then around. So I'm gonna try my best to do that with my clay here. So even though it's not how I imagine it, try to go for the actual shape. Now here is that big temporal spots that we felt earlier. So I will need to take my fingers and kind of push those areas in on the side. But remember, if you don't like it, you can always smooth it out that way. I just want you to try your best. These may not turn out looking so real, but I do want you to try. And then I noticed that there's that Zygomatic Arch, and there really is kind of a little pushed insides there, so I'm going to try that too. Now, those Zygomatic arches, they do have a hole that you can see all the way through the skull. You do not have to include that here unless you really want to. I have that Zygomatic arch in there now. So now I'm gonna go ahead and finish by doing the teeth. And I'm just gonna do it my way by poking the side of the popsicle stick right here to make some teeth. So I know that this doesn't look entirely real, but it looks like a better skull than I would have come up with on my own. So I just want you to give this a try today. I want you to practice this. Once you've done it once, why don't you squish it up and do it again so that you'll really know what to do next time. I am not looking for it to look absolutely real. I just want you to try your best. If you're ever in doubt, just kind of hold it up, compare, see what you have, and then look at the skull and try to see if you can make any changes to make it more realistic. I'm realizing that I need a little bit more skull on top. It's a little bit of a short face, so I might go back and change that. While you guys are sculpting your skulls for practice and Play-Doh, I will be calling some people up to do grading for our gemstone project. This is nothing to be afraid of, but I do need to talk to every single person about their grade, and I'll go over our rubric, and while you're working, I may call you up. So just be ready for that. I'll take people to the middle table. Please allow us some privacy while I give out grades.